I was sitting in the back row of a watercolor workshop in Santa Fe, trying to remember what it felt like to do something purely for myself, when my phone buzzed. Motion detected in your living room. I almost ignored it. Alerts like that usually meant a drifting shadow or the mail dropped through the slot. But habit is a stubborn thing at 70, and I tapped the notification. The story you are about to hear is a work of fiction created by the Here Tears channel team, based on real life situations to convey lessons about family, emotions, and human values. All characters and events are illustrative. The screen opened to the live feed from my home in Tacoma. My daughter, Clara Ellington Hayes, stood in the middle of my living room with a measuring tape stretched between her hands. Her husband, Jared, held the other end, nodding like a contractor preparing a remodel. In the hallway behind them, Evelyn Hayes. Jared's mother hovered with her arms crossed over her chest, looking small and unsure. Then I heard my daughter whisper, "Once she is settled in, she cannot stop us." Jared chuckled under his breath. "This place will be perfect. Plenty of room." Clara's voice sharpened. "Mom will calm down once she sees how much sense it makes. A multi-generational home is safer for everyone." Evelyn whispered something I could not catch. Clara cut her off gently but firmly. "We are doing the right thing. She will adjust." My hand tightened around the phone. This was not a misunderstanding, not confusion, not impulsiveness. This was a coordinated plan to move Evelyn into my home while I was on a trip they believed would keep me far enough away not to fight back. I did not call Clara. I did not shout into the microphone. I did not let the panic rising in my chest spill into my voice. Instead, I opened my airline app and changed my plane ticket to the earliest flight home. If they were already setting their plan in motion, then I needed to set mine. I used to think my house in Tacoma was safe simply because I had poured so many years into it. My late husband, Daniel, and I spent entire weekends sanding banisters and repairing the old beams in the attic. Every inch of that craftsman carried our fingerprints. It never occurred to me that someone else might see it as unfinished something to reshape, claim, or redirect. Clara's hints started small. "Mom, this place is too big for one person," she would say as she walked from room to room, touching surfaces like an appraiser. "You could do so much more with all this space." I told her I liked things as they were. She smiled as if she knew better. Then Jared began chiming in during visits. "You know, Maris, the equity in a house like this could do a lot of heavy lifting," he said once, tapping the door frame as though assessing its value. "People your age should think about simplifying." I remember pausing with a dish towel in my hands, wondering when my life became a renovation project in their minds. Evelyn came by occasionally, usually at Clara's insistence. She seemed uneasy every time. She would sit at my kitchen table, fiddling with her wedding ring, glancing toward Clara as if seeking permission to speak. "Clara just wants everyone together," she murmured once. "She means well." Her voice did not match her words. Slowly, Clara began slipping herself into decisions that had nothing to do with her. She scheduled my dentist appointment without asking, claiming it was more efficient. She took over sorting my mail to help me stay organized. One afternoon, she walked into my living room holding a stack of my bank statements. "You really need support managing all this," she said. I told her I was perfectly capable. She sighed, as if correcting a child. At the time, I didn't call any of it controlling. I told myself she was stressed, that her need to oversee everything came from love. But as I sat there in Santa Fe replaying her whisper once she is settled in, "She cannot stop us," everything snapped into place. This takeover didn't begin today. It had been tightening around me for years, disguised as help, wrapped in daughterly concern. And now they believed the house was already theirs. What happens next depends on whether I let them keep believing it. I did not sleep that night in Santa Fe. I lay in the dark listening to the distant hum of cars, replaying Clara's whisper over and over until the words felt carved into me. Around 3 in the morning, I finally got up, pulled a notepad from my suitcase, and sat at the small desk by the window. I wrote her name at the top, Clara Ellington Hayes. Then I began listing the things I had given her. The down payment for her first condo. She had called it a loan. Just until we get settled, she promised. That was more than 15 years ago. Not $1 had ever come back. 3 months of childcare when she said she could not afford daycare. I fed the grandchildren, rocked them through fevers, stayed awake while she caught up on sleep. Clara thanked me with a hug and then asked if I could extend it a little longer. The emergency fund I gave Jared when his business partner supposedly betrayed him. $10,000, handed over in a trembling envelope because Jared looked desperate and Clara was crying. 2 weeks later, he posted photos of a weekend getaway. And then there were the things I could not quantify. The nights Clara arrived on my doorstep in tears because her life felt overwhelming. The hours I sat with her while she vented, reassuring her that she was capable, strong, misunderstood, exceptional. The emotional scaffolding I built for her piece by piece until she learned to lean on me without ever standing on her own. By the time I stopped writing, the notepad held 2 full pages of sacrifices, all neatly penned in rows like a ledger of debts no one intended to repay. Seeing it written out made my stomach twist. I had not been helping. I had been training her, teaching her that my boundaries could be bent, stepped over, or erased entirely if she needed something. And Clara, bright as she is, learned quickly. I pressed my hand against the page, flattening the ink. This would be the last entry. The ledger ended here, in this quiet room, with no one watching but me. What changes next will come from the line I finally refused to cross. I landed at Seattle-Tacoma International Airport just after sunrise, far earlier than Clara or Jared would ever anticipate. The moment my feet hit the terminal floor, I pulled out my phone and dialed Arthur Blake. He had been my attorney for more than 2 decades. Steady as granite and twice as unmovable when it came to protecting his clients. He answered on the second ring. "Maris, you are supposed to be in New Mexico. I saw something on my security camera," I said. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. "I need information on emergency property protections, trusts, trespass law, and revoking any power of attorney I ever granted." There was a beat of silence. Then Arthur exhaled sharply. "Tell me everything." I gave him the condensed version, Clara whispering in my living room, Jared measuring walls, Evelyn standing in the background looking frightened. The words, "Once she is settled in, she cannot stop us." Arthur's tone shifted. "You should not confront them alone. I will draft the paperwork today. Come to my office as soon as you can. I am not going home yet." I said, "They think I am still out of state." "That's useful." Another pause. "You are setting a trap. I am creating clarity." He agreed to have everything ready within hours. Instead of taking a taxi to my house, I rode to the North End neighborhood and stopped at the home of my next-door neighbor, Mrs. Kamala Patel. She opened the door in a quilted robe, surprised to see me. "Maris, you are back early. I need your help," I said quietly, "and I need you to keep this between us for now." Inside, over a mug of tea I barely touched, I told her what I had seen on the camera. Her eyes widened, anger flashing across her face. "They planned this while you were hundreds of miles away," she said. "What do you need from me?" "A witness," I replied. "Someone who can observe without interfering." She nodded immediately. "Say no more. You can stay here until you decide to walk through your own front door." We stepped out onto her porch, the view of my house clear and unobstructed. I kept my phone in hand. watching the security feed, waiting for Clara and Jared to take their next step. What happens now will come from letting them believe their plan is unfolding exactly as they intended. Mrs. Patel's text came just after noon. They just unlocked your door. I stepped closer to her front window, watching as Clara's SUV pulled into my driveway. Jared climbed out first, carrying a box labeled office. Evelyn followed, moving slowly, clutching a folded sweater to her chest. Clara barked quick directions, her tone brisk and rehearsed. Jared, the back bedroom. That will be Evelyn's space for now. We will adjust once we settle in. Evelyn hesitated on the walkway. Clara, your mother said this was all right. She invited me. I do not want to intrude. I pressed my knuckles to my mouth. That lie, the softness of it, cut deeper than any whisper on my security feed. Clara looped her arm through Evelyn's and tugged her forward. Mom asked me to handle everything. She wants you comfortable before she gets back. Do not overthink it. Jared laughed as he kicked my door fully open. This is going to be great. Our transition begins today. He lifted his phone and filmed a slow pan of my entryway like it already belonged to him. Inside! Clara's voice drifted out the open door. Put the bookshelf against the far wall. We will move Mom's chair to the garage until we decide what stays. Evelyn murmured something too soft for me to hear, but Clara shushed her. Please, do not start feeling guilty. We agreed this is best for everyone. Mrs. Patel stood behind me, arms crossed, fury simmering in her silence. I opened the recording app on my phone, every careless sentence. Every command Clara issued, every lie she fed Evelyn, I captured all of it, letting their confidence document the truth better than I ever could. Jared carried another box inside. Humming, Clara stepped out briefly to grab a lamp, smiling like someone settling into a second home she had already claimed in her mind. Mrs. Patel whispered, They think you are powerless. I kept my gaze steady on the doorway, recording each moment without blinking. Their certainty was building the very case I needed. I walked across the lawn and stepped through my own front door without knocking. Clara froze mid-sentence, a lamp in her hands. The color drained from her face so quickly it was almost theatrical. Mom, you are home early, she said. Her smile twitched at the edges. Jared recovered faster. He set down the box he was carrying and spread his arms. Surprise! We wanted to welcome you back with a fresh setup. New phase of life. Right. I held his gaze without answering. I reached into my bag, pulled out my phone, and tapped the recording app. The small red light blinked between us. Clara's voice sharpened. Mom, do not start making this into something it is not. I stepped farther in, scanning the half-moved furniture. Who invited Evelyn to live here? Evelyn straightened from the chair she was clutching. Maris, I am so sorry. Clara said you wanted me settled before you returned. I never meant... Stop apologizing, Clara snapped. Mom did say no. I cut in. I did not. Clara's jaw clenched. But Jared jumped in smoothly. Look, this is normal. Families consolidate property for efficiency. Multi-generational living is common. We are simply planning ahead. You moved my furniture. I said, without consent. It is just rearranging. Clara shot back. And honestly, Mom, you are being dramatic. You cannot keep living alone in this big house. We are trying to help you, even if you cannot see it. I reached into my bag again and pulled out the stack of printed screenshots. Clara's eyes flicked to them, recognition flaring into panic. These, I said, laying them on the dining table one by one, are the timestamps from my security feed. This is you whispering. Once she is settled in, she cannot stop us. This is Jared measuring the walls, Basois. This is Evelyn asking if I knew anything about your plan. Jared stepped back, his confidence leaking away. Evelyn covered her mouth, whispering another apology. Clara stared at the papers like they were written in fire. You were spying on your own family. I was listening to the truth, I replied quietly. The trap had closed. Every lie they built had finally run out of room to stand. Clara stared at the screenshots spread across my table, then lifted her chin with a brittle smile. Mom, you are overreacting. You are 70. You should not be living alone anymore. Jared crossed his arms. We are trying to help you before something happens. You should be grateful we stepped in. Clara moved closer, lowering her voice as if reason might soften the blow. You need support. You forget things. You get overwhelmed. We are doing what is best for you. Each word slid toward me like a hook meant to pull me back into place. I had spent years letting those hooks catch. Not today. I reached into my bag and placed a folder on the table. Arthur Blake prepared documents for me this morning. Clara blinked. Documents for what? For clarity, I said, opening the folder. First, you are removed from all financial authority. Every verbal permission you ever assumed is gone, Jared scoffed, but I continued. Second, the house is now protected under a trust. No one can consolidate anything, and no decisions can be made about my property without my explicit written approval. Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. Maris, I never wanted, I know, I said gently. You were pulled into something you did not understand. Clara's voice cracked. You are punishing us for caring. You were not caring, I replied. You were planning. Jared slammed his palm on the table. You cannot just undo everything. We moved things in. We started the process. This house should be shared. And third, I said, sliding one final document forward. This is a formal notice that no one may reside in my home without my signed consent. That includes family. Clara's face twisted. You called a lawyer against your own children. I defended myself. I said, before Clara could reach for her phone, before she could twist the narrative into something vindictive, I dialed Officer Dana Ruiz. This is Maris Ellington, I said when she answered. I need assistance at my home. There is a trespass situation in progress. Clara's mouth fell open as the call ended. The line between us had finally been drawn. Officer Dana Ruiz arrived within minutes. Calm and steady, her notebook already in hand. Clara stepped forward immediately. Officer, my mother is confused, she said, forcing a tremble into her voice. We were helping her. She is blowing this out of proportion. Officer Ruiz held up a hand. I will speak with everyone, one at a time. I handed over the folder Arthur had prepared trust documents. The trespass notice, the time-stamped screenshots, and the printed transcript of Clara's whisper. Ruiz scanned the pages, her expression tightening. Is this your voice? She asked Clara, tapping the line where Clara whispered. Once she is settled in, she cannot stop us. Clara swallowed. That is out of context. Mrs. Patel stepped from my doorway. It is entirely in context. I watched them unlock her door with a key Maris did not authorize. Ruiz nodded and opened the audio file from my security feed. Clara's whisper filled the room. Jared winced. Evelyn closed her eyes. Ruiz finished the recording, then spoke quietly. All right. Based on the evidence, no one besides Ms. Ellington has legal permission to occupy this home. You will remove your belongings now. Jared bristled. You cannot throw us out. This house should have been ours eventually. We were planning ahead. It is not yours, Ruiz replied. You need to gather your items. Evelyn stepped toward me, voice breaking. Maris, I am so sorry. Clara said you wanted me here. I never would have stepped inside if I knew the truth. I know, I told her. You were used. Clara's composure cracked. Stop pretending you are the victim. You are tearing this family apart. We were trying to help you, Mom. "You are old. You cannot handle this house alone. That is my decision," I said. Jared muttered under his breath. "We should have just pushed this through months ago." Ruiz turned to him sharply. "Sir, I need you to watch your tone." Clara pointed at me, tears streaking her cheeks. "You ruined everything. You could have let this be easy." I stepped forward, meeting her eyes. "You did not lose my house. You lost access to me." She blinked, stunned. Jared's mouth fell open. Evelyn let out a small gasp. Ruiz handed Clara the trespass notice. "Until further legal review, you are not permitted on this property without written consent." Clara looked from the paper to me, realization hitting her like a blow. "You talked to a lawyer. You changed everything behind my back. I protected my life, I said, from you." Clara did not speak again. She simply turned, gathered what little she had brought in, and walked out beside Jared, their anger and confusion trailing behind them like dust. Evelyn paused at the door. "I hope someday this can be gentler," she whispered. Then she followed them down the walkway. Mrs. Patel closed the door softly. The house, for the first time in months, felt like mine again. 2 months passed before I realized how quiet my home had become. Not empty, not lonely, just quiet in a way that felt earned. The trust was finalized. The trespass order was signed and filed. Arthur Blake confirmed that the disinheritance papers were received and processed. Every piece of protection I once assumed I did not deserve now sat firmly in place. Clara and Jared's finances unraveled soon after. The debt they had tried to redirect onto me circled back to them, and without access to my house or my resources, they were forced to confront the consequences themselves. I heard through Mrs. Patel that Jared lost a listing, then another. None of it brought joy, only a sense of release, like finishing a long and overdue exhale. Evelyn wrote to me from her new senior apartment. Her letters were short, apologetic, handwritten in neat, looping script. "I never wanted to be part of anything harmful," she wrote. "Thank you for treating me kindly." Even when others did not, I wrote back, not often, but enough to help her feel untangled from the mess her son and my daughter created. One afternoon, my granddaughter Lily called. Her small voice wavered. "Grandma, Mommy says we cannot visit anymore. Did we do something wrong?" "No, sweetheart," I told her. "You did nothing wrong. Grown-ups sometimes need space to fix their own problems. But I love you very much." She asked if I would come to her school play. I promised I would, and she brightened instantly. When the call ended, I sat for a long moment holding the quiet with both hands. I spent that evening on my front porch, the place I once avoided because every creak reminded me of Daniel's absence. Now it felt different, more like the beginning of something than the end. The wind rustled the leaves, gentle and unbothered, as if the house itself had finally unclenched. Revenge had not erupted like fire. It came as a single, decisive click, the sound of a door I closed after a lifetime of leaving everything wide open for others to walk through. Protecting myself was not cruelty. It was the purest kind of peace. I blocked Clara's number last week. I thought it would sting, but it felt like slipping out of a coat that never fit. The weight was gone. My home was mine again. My life was mine again. And for the first time in many years, I was not surviving a storm. I was standing in clear, quiet air. If you felt something in my story, tap like, drop a comment, or subscribe to hear more stories from voices like mine.